Hi, everyone. I'm Jackie Leventhal, and I'm the Chief Brand and Content Officer here at 6th and I. Whether you're here with us in person or watching virtually from home, on behalf of 6th and I and our partner, Politics and Prose, thank you so much for being with us tonight and for your support of a nonprofit and an independent bookstore. By show of hands, for how many of you is this your first time at 6th and I? Most of you, where have you been? Okay, I'm going to share a little history so you know the significance of where you're sitting tonight. This building dates back to 1908. It was a synagogue for 45 years and then home to an AME church for the next 50 years. When the church relocated and put the building up for sale in the early 2000s, the highest bid was from someone who wanted to turn it into a nightclub. And if you have ever been here for a concert, you know that we dabble in what might have been, but this building was destined for something greater, and it was saved within 24 hours. For the past 18 years, 6th and I has served as a center for arts, entertainment, ideas, and Jewish life. Our aim is to inspire more meaningful and fulfilling lives through an unexpected mix of experiences that embrace the multifaceted identities of those we serve. It's such a pleasure to introduce Chasten Buttigieg tonight. In the early months of the pandemic, we hosted a virtual event with Chasten for the release of his New York Times bestselling memoir, I Have Something to Tell You. From his really beautiful kitchen, it was a great kitchen, so it feels worth mentioning, Chasten shared his story of growing up gay in a small, conservative Midwestern town and how he ultimately found self-acceptance after years of obstacles. During the 2020 presidential campaign, Chasten traveled across the country in support of the groundbreaking campaign of his husband, former Mayor Pete Buttigieg. At the time, Politico said that Chasten was, quote, winning the 2020 spouse primary. More importantly than that, Chasten, a former teacher, became an inspiration to queer kids struggling with their identity, which brings us to tonight to celebrate the release of the young adult adaptation of his memoir, which came out today. The book builds upon Chasten's work of supporting young people who feel isolated and showing them that they are not alone and are worthy of love. This can be exceedingly difficult when, in 2023 alone, more than 400 anti-LGBTQ+ bills have been introduced in state legislatures across the country, many of them attacking transgender youth. If coming out isn't your personal story or the story of your child, you have an essential role in this fight as an ally, an advocate, an activist, helping to remove the roadblocks on a path everyone deserves to walk, the path to acceptance and representation. Chasten and his crucially important book are guiding lights in this work. We're seeing books geared toward LGBTQ+ youth being banned in schools across the country. So I encourage you to pick up an extra copy of I Have Something to Tell You for young adults tonight and gift it to someone who could benefit from reading it and may otherwise have a hard time accessing it. Tonight, Chasten Buttigieg will be in conversation with R. Eric Thomas, a television writer, playwright, and the best-selling author of Here For It, or How to Save Your Soul in America. It is a heartfelt and funny memoir and essays about growing up, seeing the world differently, and the awkward stumbles along the way to finding unexpected hope. We have autographed copies for sale tonight. Later in the program, we'd love to hear your questions, and you'll be invited to line up at the standing microphones in either aisle. Thank you all again, both here and at home, for joining us. Please help me give Chasten Buttigieg and R. Eric Thomas a warm welcome to 6th and I.
Wow. Oh my goodness.
Chasten, hello.
Hi.
I love the energy in this room. It feels like it reflects the energy that you're putting out into the world, which is just such warmth, right? And
thank you.
You know, such beauty.
I had a lot of coffee today.
Warmth, beauty, and a lot of coffee.
Yeah. Thank you.
This is a really, so, you know, you released I Have Something to Tell You in 2020, and you weren't able to do, I think, a lot of in-person events.
None.
And so is this really your first time, like, being able to be in rooms like this for a book tour?
Yeah, this is incredible. Thank you for being here. Yeah. It didn't feel as special during the pandemic because, you know, you would... Well, also, you didn't have to wear pants, right? So you would put the suit coat on in your kitchen, and then it'd be like, all right, I'm doing another book event.
Right.
But they're kind of all the same because you're just sitting in your kitchen hoping that there aren't dishes in the background.
Right, and then you close your laptop after an hour, and you're like, well, okay.
And then you're alone.
You know?
Yeah.
So this is very different. This is very exciting.
This is really cool.
What I love about this book is that it builds upon I Have Something to Tell You, the adult version of the memoir, and it tells some new stories, some things that you didn't hear in the first one.
Yeah.
One of the things that really stuck out to me, well, one, you've been signing a lot of the books, yours in allyship, and I wanted to talk about allyship to begin with. And you write about your grandma, Wanda, as your staunchest ally, and that was a surprise to you, right? You were told, actually, don't tell your grandmother that you were gay. And she surprised you. And not only did she surprise you, she stood up for you. She spoke at your wedding. She read a verse from Matthew. Can you talk about that journey for the both of you to this place?
Yeah, it was the hardest part of the book to write.
Was it? Oh.
Yeah. So much of the story and so much of the book is not just a message for young people, but the people who love them, their parents, their teachers. A big part of my story is the fact that there was a rainbow at the end of the scary coming out phase, unintended. And it wasn't that I grew up fearing that the moment I came out, you know, my dad would say, no son of mine's gay, get out of my house. It was that I was terrified that I would be so embarrassing to them. Not to take you through all the early chapters, but I really did think I was the only gay person in the world for a long time. And eventually, I'm sure we'll talk about some of these other hurdles along the way, but eventually found the confidence to come out. So when I came out when I was 18, I ran away from home for a while. But this story is about how people can come around, how people can grow, and be on the right side of history. So I came out, ran away from home, which I'm sure we'll cover later, and finally started to have some of those really important conversations with my family. But everyone kept saying, don't tell Grandma, it'll kill her. And that really hurt, because this person I loved so deeply didn't know this bit of information about me. I've also grown up to know that coming out is your choice.
Right.
You don't have to come out to other people if you don't want to. That is actually your gift to share with other people should you choose. But at the time, it felt like I had to confess my sins to everyone around me. But then this Thanksgiving rolled around, and it was just eating me alive that Grandma didn't know. She was a staunch Catholic. I think I wrote in the book that she loved bingo and her God. And you know, just a really loud, opinionated woman, clearly the matriarch. And I loved her deeply, and I was so worried that she wouldn't love me back. And this Thanksgiving rolled around, and I asked her to go for a walk, and we wound up in the front seat of her Buick. And her rosary was dangling in the rearview mirror. And I just fell to pieces. I said, Grandma, I couldn't get anything out. And just sobbing in the front seat of her car because I was convinced that I was about to hear all of the ways in which I had disappointed her. And she reached across the car and gripped my arm, and she had all those big rings on. You know, I could feel them squeezing into my arm. She was gripping me so tight. And she said, I know, and I love you just the same. And, you know, my family, they're the reason I'm here. The fact that I got to go home, the fact that my mom called me home, and the fact that people like Grandma loved me unconditionally. So much about the allyship I talk about with parents is unconditional love. And yeah, Wanda was at our wedding. She read the gospel at our wedding, and then she passed a few weeks later. And it was a really beautiful journey, I feel like we both shared.
Yeah.
And, that bond of love, and to know that she loved me as deeply as she did.
Yeah.
Until she met Pete, I'm convinced she loved him more than me once she met him. But she was, I wish y'all could have known her. She was great.
That's extraordinary. And what a gift. What a gift she gave to you, but also what a gift you gave to her by being your full self, right?
Yeah.
You know? And that's the scary but wonderful thing about coming out, or telling any truth about yourself, right? Is that you are doing something, like you say, that is not required, but can build a different bridge between yourself and this other person. And you got to have that with your grandmother, which is extraordinary.
Yeah. I love that you use that word, a gift.
Yeah.
Sometimes when I meet parents who have a kid who has recently come out, the question is always, what do I do? What do I do? And you can tell there's so much fear and anxiety about raising a young queer person in this country. And I always tell them that, well, the first thing that you should do is thank them for coming out to you. Thank them for that gift, and also thank yourself.
Yeah.
Because if you have raised a kid to know that they can come to you about something that might be terrifying them, eating them up, then you've done something right. So you should go easy on yourself.
Yeah.
You know? But it is such a gift when people share that information with you, because they're saying, I respect you and I trust you. And that's really important.
Yeah, yeah. That's huge. That's a huge thing to remember. And I think, you know, when you think about gifts, I also think about the gift of this book and the gift that you were trying to give to people. And one of the things that was interesting about this gift is that it spends so much time. You really allow the reader to spend so much time with you in your youth, you know, to really hang out with you in Chum's Corner, where you're from. Outside of Trevor.
Great name, right?
Right, fantastic.
All the good things are happening in Chum's Corner, Michigan.
Well, you know, I'm reading about it, and it's like this idyllic town where, like, you called it a cheery cherry town, because there was a very big cherry business there.
Yeah.
And you worked at Cherry
Republic.
Cherry Republic, that's right.
Yeah.
And I was like, this Lifetime movie network life that you had, you worked at a Christmas tree lot. I mean, just hanging all the bells. So I wonder, like, obviously, not all was well for you, but you did grow up in what a lot of people might consider this sort of idyllic version of, like, Midwestern life.
Yeah.
And what is that, and you hold on to that. What is coming from that background, sort of, how does that inform the way that you operate in the world now, do you think?
Most recently, it gives me a sense of reality.
Okay. Yeah,
so, you know, politically, things feel a little different in this town. Versus back home. But, you know, I write how the woods and the waters of northern Michigan shaped me.
Yeah.
And currently, every time I go home, it just sort of reminds me of what is truly real. Because I walk down, you know, the street or the aisles in the grocery store back home, and nobody's talking about, you know, beer bottles and drag queens and, like, everything the echo chamber and the noise machine in politics makes you believe that everyone cares about. I'm talking with neighbors, and I don't know if they're Republican or Democrat, and you know, people are going about their life, trying to raise their kids, do a good job.
Yeah.
And it's just that Midwestern sensibility.
Yeah.
Are there any Midwesterners in the house tonight? I love it. I love it. You know, and growing up in a place like that with such a strong emphasis on family and community has, I think, helped keep me grounded in the things that truly matter, especially since life has changed dramatically. Yeah. And I often think about what's going on back home, and I feel like that's a great bellwether for, you know, what people care about. And but I'm sure many of us can say that about our hometowns. But Traverse City, to sort of come back to the idea of Traverse City being this Lifetime movie city, like downtown Traverse City is. And, you know, I was 20 minutes outside the city, because we measure things in minutes there.
Of course, yeah.
Minutes and roads.
I love that song, Minutes and Roads.
Yeah. Okay. By Tim McGraw. And I was the 4-H kid growing up out in the country and didn't feel like I blended in the big city of Traverse City. So I kind of felt like I was operating in two different worlds.
And I imagine, I think that's a common experience for queer people, but it really feels so vivid in the way that you write about it, because you are raising goats and cows, and then have this sort of big city life, but also dreaming of being in New York or anywhere else, but your home. And you write a lot about sort of that feeling of isolation, not feeling like you fit in anywhere. You use the lunch table metaphor, like not knowing which lunch table to sit at. And I wonder, like, with the gift of hindsight, like, what is your ideal lunch table? What does your lunch table look like?
All the people that I would want to sit at the lunch table, are in my life now. A couple of them are sitting right there. It was that sense, in high school of grabbing your lunch tray and then looking out at the cafeteria. And I went to a school of 1,500 people, and I didn't have a table. I did not have a regular table every day. I sort of floated between groups, and I think that's a great metaphor for life in general.
Yeah.
And in hindsight, the biggest thing that I tell young Chasten in this book, I wish I could go back in time and hand him this book, it's like, stop caring so much about what these people think of you. I was so obsessed with their opinions of me because I was trying to hide this big secret. Yeah. And so, any whisper, any turn of the head, I was convinced that someone found out or someone was about to share it, or, are they making fun of me? Are they talking about me? And I was so focused on meeting everyone else's expectations for me. My dad's, my mom's, my peers, my church, my 4-H group. And I was operating all of these spaces, not thinking about myself, but thinking about what everyone else thought about me in those spaces. And I wish I could go back and tell young Chasten that you don't have to be defined by these people's opinions. Yeah. You are not defined by your surroundings, and you're not defined by the opinions of other people. Only should you allow yourself to believe that those opinions matter. Yeah. And I think many of us do that, whether you identify as LGBTQ or not. And I put too much weight into achieving everyone else's expectations. I was a theater kid, but I felt like I stuck out too much. And then I was in 4-H, and I was wearing like the Wrangler jeans and the American flag shirts and the Stetson, and showing cows at the fair, because that's what my community told me was the height of masculinity. Right. And I was putting on a show. And I wish that young Chasten could have just focused on the things that made him unique, rather than doing all of the other things that he thought he should.
Yeah. One of the things that's always so interesting about masculinity to me is that it's all a drag, right? Like, whether it's a Stetson hat or heel, right?
That was a costume.
Right.
In high school.
Like, you walk into, anytime I walk into like a Dick's Sporting Goods, I'm like, well, here we are in the costume shop. Yeah. And so I think it feels like kind of like a...
Why are you at Dick's Sporting Goods?
Well, every once in a while I pretend I want to play softball. And then I realize I just want to make friends and go to happy hour.
Oh, I'm proud of you.
You're proud of me.
I see all of those athletic leagues, and I'm like, oh, that looks so fun. Nah.
But no, that's the thing. You join, and then you're like, well, this is the hard thing for me, is that you join, and then people are like, no, we got to win. And you're like, wow, 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 wow. Yeah. That is not part of my plan. But I feel like, there's a lot of them here in DC. You could join, I think there's like a trivia league. That's seated.
I like trivia.
Right?
That's got French fries and beer. Yeah, I don't have to kick a ball.
Don't have to kick a ball.
But also, kickball.
Is it really, no offense, but is it real? Are we really playing a sport there, or are we just like...
That to me is like, you made fun of me in high school for not being athletic, and here you are.
Well, I don't know that the people who are, the people who are playing kickball in my town are generally people like us who were like, I wasn't really welcomed in the sports.
Oh yeah, I want to play with them. Yeah. That sounds like a safe space.
Yeah. Although they do have dodgeball, which I'm like, that feels like the locus of a lot of trauma. So I'm just sort of like, are we re-traumatizing ourselves?
Can you imagine? I mean, like going to a gay bar is hard sometimes.
Oh yeah, no.
Can you imagine like going to a gay dodgeball league?
I can, because I've done it, and I gotta say,
absolutely not.
And it's very hard to hold your martini up.
You gotta put it in a thermos.
Yeah, which a thermos martini? Not the look, baby. Not for me.
I'm so proud of you for doing that.
Thank you.
It's the volleyball leagues that are.
See, volleyball is strictly because it's like it's sneakily athletic. You gotta like jump.
Yeah.
To what? Okay, now I need to know. What is your ideal sort of like pretending to be social gay sports league? Like what is it? What sport do you want to play?
Oh, well, I was on the bowling team.
Yes, that's right. Yes.
In high school. Yeah, that's right. Bowlers rise up. I took it seriously. I bowled like 6 days a week in high school.
6 days a week?
Yeah. Well, I was running away from everybody. So the great thing about bowling is you can just go get a lane and bowl, and people leave you alone. And, you know, you can eat chicken tenders at the bowling alley and do your thing. You don't have to talk to anybody. So, you were talking about a social league. Bowling. I would love to be on a bowling.
See, this is illustrative because your social league is leave me alone with my chicken tenders. Which
when I was young.
No, I mean that's fine. I'm not judging. I think that's great. I love to be social by being alone. Like, I like to go on reading dates where I'm like, we're going to read silently together. Isn't that
you
fun?
would love my husband. There is nothing like going on vacation with that man. And, you know, I'm at the pool and I'm like, you got to listen to this. And it's just like, I pick up a comedy and I'm always trying to tell him stories, and that man's reading something like World War II.
Oh my God. I understand. Well,
he would love like companionable silence, and I don't do that well.
Yeah.
At all.
We're both married to Eagle Scouts, and my husband is very much the same way, where he's like, he picked up a book about the science of trees, which sounded really great. I don't really know what that means, because I was like literally half reading like a book that I found very funny, and then I was like, I can't read anymore. I gotta look around. So
same. I tried to read Joyce because he really likes Joyce. Like early.
James?
Yeah.
Okay.
You know what?
You heard of him? Carol Oates? Who were the...
Exactly. I remember we were
Joyce.
Joyce, you know Joyce? She works weekends down at the picnic.
Oh my God.
I remember reading Portrait of the Artist, and I was like 3 pages, and I was like, oh, it's gonna be the longest vacation ever. I was trying to impress him, and it didn't work out.
Oh my God. But clearly, I think it clearly worked out, though. You impressed him in other ways.
Oh yeah, he likes me for other reasons, and not because I read James Joyce. I think he respects that about me.
You need like counterparts. You know, one person has to be the James Joyce reader, and one person has to, I guess, not. You know.
Yeah, we have this great thing where, at the end of the day or a book or whatever, when someone is clearly like getting up on a soapbox, be like, are you telling me this because you want to? Is this something that you really need to tell me, or do you feel like you just need to vent? Is like, what kind of soapbox are you getting on? Because I think we just fill the, you just fill the space, you fill the gaps. Does that make sense?
Oh, yes.
Married people, right? Okay. Like, I know, it's mostly for me. Because he's definitely an introvert and I'm an extrovert. Whatever. What were we talking about? I wrote a book.
You did write a book. Actually, one of the things that you wrote about in your book that I need to ask about. So you wrote really early on about doing karaoke in your living room.
Oh yeah.
And one, I need to know what was on the playlist, and two, what's on your karaoke playlist now. This is very important.
What was on the playlist then?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I am glad there weren't smartphones in the 90s, because I used to sing at concerts for the local country music radio station.
Oh.
And I was, 4-H, remember? I was a country boy, and so I was probably singing, but of course, I wasn't singing Garth Brooks. I was probably like leaning hard in on Reba McEntire. I was probably singing Fancy from too young an age, you know?
I mean, that's the jam.
A little young gay boy who had no idea what Reba was singing about. But now, like, I will, have you seen that meme? It was like, anytime Shania Twain's Man, I Feel Like a Woman comes on, I will kick a door off its hinges.
Yes.
Like, 100%.
Oh, truly.
Yeah.
The best, like, 4 notes in history.
Yeah. And, like, you're at the bar, you're going to drink, and you're like, well, gotta go.
Throw the drink,
Leave the credit card, go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, give me some good Celine Dion. Yeah. It's all coming back to me now. I feel like I'm that person at karaoke that lip syncs when everyone else is singing, and I save my voice for.
Oh no, this is the true theater. This is the theater kid coming out. You're like, I'm on vocal rest until it's time.
I can't do the Goo Goo Dolls. I know Wicked's coming up. I see it on the playlist. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Oh my goodness. I love that. I love that. Like, that's very exciting. In a similar vein, because you are a theater person.
Yeah.
And so, one, theater's where you sort of found yourself. Theater.
Absolutely.
After like a lifetime of, I guess you could say, like playing the role, you found that playing the role really fits you on stage, and it really opened you up in college and beyond. So one, I'm curious, what about theater it gave you those aha moments? What about that? What made you feel freer?
Yeah, I think from a very young age. I mean, singing karaoke.
Yeah.
I think I loved playing pretend because I could be somebody else.
Yeah.
And when my parents enrolled me at the community theater, it was like a whole another world opened up to me. But the thing about theater for me when I was young was that I could go there and be somebody else, and I was applauded for being creative and energetic and playing these characters, but I wasn't Chasten when I was on stage, so I could hide from Chasten by being really good at theater. And obviously, the older and older I got, I just really loved being in theater. But early on in life, the Old Town Playhouse in downtown Traverse City, that was like, I'm going into the city. I am in a play, you know? And I finally made friends who were like me, you know, all of the outcasts in theater class. And then I failed miserably my first 2 years of college. So I'd come out when I was 18, and I'd run away from home, and I was couch surfing at the time, sleeping in friends' living rooms and in the back of my car, and I just wasn't ready for college. I wasn't prepared for that, but all my peers were going off to, you know, Michigan State. They were going to these big schools, and I enrolled at the local community college, and I felt like such a failure because I didn't get out of Traverse City. And I didn't know what I was doing, but I wasn't ready. Yeah. That's another thing I write about in the book. For young people, like, you don't have to go to college right away. It's such a lie. You know, there's no agenda, there's no schedule. You don't have to meet anybody else's expectations. But to me, it was like 4 years, got to do it. Be a nurse, mom and dad will be proud. It pays good money, and I just wasn't focusing on the things that made me happy. So I got to a point in college, I was like, I think I should study something that makes me really happy. So I went back to theater, and that's where I found theater education. Yeah. And some of the people that I met in college, they just kept me going because I was surrounded by, it wasn't really until I got to Eau Claire, Wisconsin, I transferred to the University of Wisconsin-Eau Claire, clearly where a freshly out-of-the-closet queer person should go, the Northwoods of Wisconsin, and made some of the best friends that I still have, you know, people who finally just allowed me to feel like I could be my truest self.
Yeah, yeah. Theater is such a sacred space, you know. It is weird and ridiculous, and you work these long hours for something that's ephemeral, but these bonds last for a really long time. I love that. And
I love a bit, you know. I love my theater friends, my improv friends. I'm sure Pete does and doesn't, you know, because Pete Buttigieg does not do bits, you know, and I feel like...
That's the headline.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
he does not probably someone from Politico here tonight, isn't there? Being spotted tomorrow.
Oh my God.
You know, these people who can like keep a joke going on forever. Mm-hmm. One of my best friends from college is here tonight, and we've had this stupid joke going on for years where we just give each other a bottle cap. We hide a bottle cap in the other person's like bag or house, and then it becomes yours, and then you have to hide it in their house the next time you go over.
I mean, classic.
And I totally got bottle caps. She greeted me in the green room, and then I received the bottle. Does that? I mean, whatever. I'm on a tangent, but like, I love you, Kathy. I love my theater people.
Yeah.
And that is like, I found my people.
Yeah.
You know, where like being goofy and loud and eccentric and creative is encouraged.
Yeah.
And I felt like those were all the things I was locking up when I was young, and I wasn't allowed to share with the world. You had to be, you know, strong and quiet, and you weren't supposed to be bookish. You were supposed to be, you know, I don't know, like hyper masculine. And my parents would tell me to put the books down and go outside and get my hands dirty. You know what I mean? And so I think I was just a ball of confusion when I was younger. You know, I wanted to sing Celine Dion, but then I had to like go help my dad skin a deer. It was like, it was a normal childhood. Right. You know?
It is so fascinating that like there was this part of you that was just like, there is another world out there, even though you didn't know it or couldn't see it. You know, you were like, it was just pulling at you, which is a beautiful and strange thing. Like sometimes I think of it as like queer magic, but sometimes it's like, I don't know, you just gotta. Well, you referenced Annie. You're like, I gotta go to New York and be an Annie. $3, 2 bags, 1 me. You know. Yeah. But you know,
which was such a lie. It's more than $3.
You do not need. You need many more dollars. Yes. I'll tell you, somebody who definitely flunked out of New York, you can't do it on 3. Before you stop talking about theater, I do want to know, just for my own personal edification, like, what are your like top shows? What are your top like?
Oh, this is the most political question you can ask me.
Oh, I know. And I'm trying to get you canceled.
Yeah. At least that question, the person from Politico is like, I don't know what that is. You know?
I mean, we can skip it.
I don't know. Well, I recently saw Parade in New York, which was
incredible.
Incredible.
Yeah, yeah.
Little Shop of Horrors, I think, was one of the first shows I ever saw.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, I think I was in 10th or 11th grade. This production came through Lansing, Michigan. And it was like the first, does anyone know Little Shop of Horrors? Yeah, okay. I remember the lights going down and that first song starting, and it was like, oh my God, there's a whole other world out here. That could be me. I want to be down there. I want to be where the people are. But then puberty hit and I couldn't sing anymore, so that, you know, a dream deferred. But that was life-changing for me. I think for my peers, it was like, oh, we had to go see this production of Little Shop, and it was like, oh my God, it's there, you know, right in front of me. I'm doing the political thing where I would talk around your question.
It's fine. I'm gonna redirect.
Oh yeah, I don't know. Big Sondheim fan. Can I tell you a story about that?
No, please.
Okay.
Yes, tell me. Well, that's the end of our event. Thank you so much, everyone. Yeah, tell me a story.
When we were on the presidential campaign, I felt like I got punted sometimes to like other ends of the country. Like I would be in North New Hampshire, and you know Pete would be in somewhere. I would be like knocking on doors, you know, hoping to run into a moose out in rural New Hampshire. And then Pete would be at these like big events, and sometimes it felt like we were having like different experiences on the campaign, you know. But this one night he calls and he says, I was at this event tonight and someone came up to me and they're like, Mayor Pete, before you go, I want to introduce you to my friend Steve.
My friend Steve.
My friend Steve.
First of all, how dare?
Yeah.
Did he know who?
And I was like, oh, who was it? It was Stephen Sondheim. And it was just like, take phone, throw it against the wall.
How dare?
Yeah. He has like celebrity blindness. Oh. He doesn't know. He's so humble. He's focused on other things, like whatever he does. And and he's like, Stephen Sondheim, like you don't deserve to meet Stephen Sondheim.
Oh my God!
Can you imagine?
One time I took my husband to see Audra McDonald, and he leaned over to me after like 3 songs, and he was like, "She's pretty good."
Security? I do not know this man.
Truly, yeah.
That is rude.
I couldn't believe it. I was like, yeah, I think the 7 Tonys she has think so too. Yeah. Or 6, whichever it is.
Can't.
I know. What are we going to do? Anyway, let's get back. So, I do want to. One of the things you brought up about your college experience, I thought was really, really interesting, and you talk about this in the book also. About you felt like you weren't doing college right. This is before you discovered your people at Eau Claire, and like I think I experienced that. I dropped out of college 3 times, and if I had read your book, I think I probably would have probably only 2. So I'm wondering. You were a first-generation college student, and you were also like trying to make ends meet financially without sort of good financial education. How can we better set kids up for reasonable expectations about what college can be?
Yeah, well, I know that there are millions of other Erics and Chastens out there who are being told, college means success. Yeah. And then there are better colleges, which means more success. And I left high school, almost completely financially illiterate. We did not focus on teaching students how to balance a budget or a checkbook. Lucky kids these days not to balance a checkbook,
Truly.
I gotta teach them how to log into Chase. So yeah, I was a first-generation college student, and I took the words financial aid at face value. So my parents weren't giving me any money. They didn't have the ability to give me any money. I qualified for some federal aid, which didn't cover the entire cost of college. I was working full-time in community college, but then once I went to the university, I was working at Eddie Bauer. I was bartending. I was picking up all these odd jobs, tutoring, and it still wasn't enough to make ends meet. And so you just go to the financial aid office, and they're like, oh, just sign this form, and we'll give you money. And for a kid who didn't really know how to make good choices about money at the time, I signed the paper. But I was also a kid who wasn't ready to be at the university in the first place. Right. I didn't know who I was.
Right.
And now, don't you sometimes wish that you go to college now?
Yes.
Like, I'm ready now.
Oh, my gosh. I would enroll in a heartbeat.
I grew up. I know what I'm interested in. I feel like I know what I would want to do with my life.
Right.
But here you are, 18, and they're like, what do you want to be? And also, that'll be $50,000.
Yes.
That's wild to me. We should be encouraging young people to take as much time as they need to figure out what their passions are. Spend some time in community service or public service some way, or just get a job and enjoy not being in high school and having your own freedom. Make friends, travel, but just take your time.
Yeah.
And to me, it was like, there's no time. And when I was dropping out of college and then re-enrolling in college, and I just kept feeling like the clock was ticking and all of my friends were beating me. And it was going to be so embarrassing if it took me 5 years to finish college versus 4 years to finish college. And now I wish I could go back and just tell that kid to slow down. Take the classes you're really interested in. Take the classes that Ron DeSantis doesn't want you to take,
Yes.
Imagine how much I could have grown.
Right.
But, it's kind of a scam. And we should just encourage young people to figure out who they are, or figure out who you are just a little bit before you sign that paper.
Yeah. Well, and you talk about feeling this ticking clock, and it's like, is there a ticking clock? Is there another shoe that's about to drop? It's like, well, to get you into the workforce, yeah, I guess. But like, to become a person, no, you're always discovering like who you are, right?
Yeah.
So, well, I didn't want to bring this energy into the room, but you did mention it. So I'm going to ask you.
Okay.
So you've experienced pushback in various ways, you know, as many of us have, but also in ways that most of us never have, you know, because of who you are and because you are a beacon of light and you're a beacon of truth. And so we are seeing people like DeSantis pushing, not even pushing back, like trying to eliminate, trying to erase who we are, what we're writing, what our history, you know. I know that you know, I think we all know why it's important, but like, girl, what do we do? Like, real talk. Like, I mean, like, what on a, like, not even on a get out and vote, Pokemon go to the polls, whatever it is, how do we hold on? How do you, as a parent, as a LGBTQ, a member of the LGBTQ community, as an adult in America, how do you hold on to sort of this idea of this hope, this vision for what we can be?
That's a big one.
I know.
Yeah. Well, it's always easier to hold on when other people are holding on to you.
Yeah.
So I try to surround myself with really good people who remind me what matters in life. Yeah. When Twitter is loud and annoying, I put the phone down and then I get down on the ground and I play with my kids because they remind me of what is so important. It's hard to go out there and solve world peace by yourself.
Yeah.
Of course, it's easier to do it with other people. I always think about service. I'm always visioning like world peace is this big box like way up there that I can't check by myself. And so I break it down into things that I can do. And I can't pass the Equality Act by myself.
Yeah.
You know, I can't bring equality and justice to every person in America by myself. And sometimes that really weighs on me as a very public person because I want to help. I want to be helpful, but I know we all want to be helpful.
Right.
So that's that question, what do? You be a really good parent. You be a really good teacher. You be a really good whatever you are. And in all of those spaces, I'm raising my kids to know that they are loved unconditionally. That makes them better humans. It makes them better Americans. In my classroom, I was always teaching my students that my classroom was a safe space, that you can exist here and you can be whoever you want to be here. In every space that you occupy, ask yourself how you're being an ally, not only to the LGBTQ community, but to everybody in your life, that they know that they can exist safely and openly in that space for exactly who they are. Because once people start to feel more comfortable in their home, in their classroom, in their workplace, then that builds us up to hold on to one another and stay in the fight together. And I think we like beat ourselves up, right? Like, what do we do? What do we do? What do you do? You have the power to do so many things every single day with your words and your actions. There really is so much weight and power in your words and your actions. One of the things that I've been shouting from the rooftops on this book tour is that this book probably wouldn't exist had my parents sat me down and had a 10-second conversation when I was younger. When I was questioning whether or not they would love me if I truly had to run away from home and run away from everything I knew. Had my parents sat me down and said, we just want you to know that we love you unconditionally. That whether you are gay, straight, bi, trans, whoever you are, you will always have a roof over your head and you will always have two parents who love you very much. And that would have just opened up a whole new world to me. Second Disney reference. But imagine what it could have been like if I could have just poured myself into everything that excited me in life, if I could have leaned into being a nerd. And I didn't have to feel ashamed of wanting to sing Celine Dion, you know, rather than skinning the deer. But imagine how young people's lives could be different if we just told them that it was okay to exist perfectly, you know, the way that they are. Remind them that they are perfect just the way that they are. And if you're a parent or a teacher, you can do that today, tomorrow, and you can do that every day to remind young people that it's okay to be different. And then when you lean into those differences, that's when you unleash and unlock your truest power. We should want that for everybody, right? To just know that you belong.
Right. What kind of world will we be in if we were all living fully in our truth, our fullest power?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, some people less power, but like, you know.
Yeah.
No, but even still.
But aren't they being their truest self right now?
I don't know. That's the thing.
That's the other thing. When someone's, like when you were talking about dealing with pushback, like when somebody, like those people, say those things, make those jokes, pass those laws, you have shown me exactly who you are.
Right.
And that is a gift because now I get to respond accordingly.
Yeah. And they're speaking out of fear.
Oh, 100%.
Instead of the trueness of who they can be.
It's not just fear, it's laziness.
Oh, absolutely.
Like being a big-hearted person and believing in equity requires work.
Right.
And if you're in a position of power, especially in elected office, that means you got to go to work and roll up your sleeves every day, work across the aisle, and get stuff done. But you have an entire political party that has been hijacked by people who don't want to work.
Right.
They want to fearmonger because it's easier. It's easier to go on the internet or a podcast or late night TV. Well, not that one show anymore, but it's so much easier. Yeah, right? It is so much easier to be a bully.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it boggles my mind that we hold 8th graders to a higher standard of decorum and ethics in this country than we do people in the House of Representatives of the United States of America. Truly.
Sure.
You come into my classroom acting like that? Absolutely not.
No.
But you can get elected to office and you can go to Washington and act like a fool and go on late night TV and raise a whole bunch of money off of being a bully.
Yeah.
I'll get off my soapbox.
Stay on the soapbox. We need more soap.
That is a good T-shirt.
We're going to open it up to audience questions in just a minute. So if you want to start lining up with these 2 microphones, you can. I'm going to ask you one more question, though.
Okay.
You write at the very end of the book, I love this part. This is a quote from your wedding. Sorry, I'm going to find it. There it is. Love lives in the space between poetry and prose, between art and science, between the divine and the mundane. I thought that was such a beautiful way of putting it. And I'm curious for you, what is lovely and divine in your life right now, and what is lovely and mundane in your life right now?
Well, parenting.
Yeah, I mean, that's the both, right?
Yeah, it's everything.
Yeah.
But they remind me of what's so important. You know, parenting is like, for anyone who's a parent, you know, like every photo and video of your kid, you're like, look at them, aren't they amazing? But I got a video from the kids today, and they were waving at an airplane and saying, "Hi, airplane."
Goodness.
And I think about, like, you know, minutes before I'm on Twitter or something, and there's someone out there to remind you they don't like you. And you can get so wrapped up in that and absorbed in the nastiness of the world. And then you watch a video of your kids waving at an airplane. And you remember that those 2 people are the most important people. Mm-hmm. And everything that I do to make sure that they grow up to be whoever they want to be, that is the best job in the world. That grounds me. And all of that work is so rooted in love. Mm. And you look at everything else happening in the world, and you know that work is not rooted in love.
Yeah, yeah.
And so that, you know, the difference between the divine and the mundane is like, I don't think I ever thought that I would grow up to be this person. To get to sit on this stage and to be handed a microphone and to have people who would show up and want to know what you have to say. And I do have something to tell you. But I don't think young Chasten would have ever anticipated that. And so being in this position is extraordinary to me. Mm-hmm. That we get to grow up to be the people we wish we could have had when we were younger.
Oh, yes.
And then your kids throw spaghetti at the wall. And they humble you. And so that's where I'm living, between those two spaces, right? This higher calling and the opportunity to do brilliant, amazing things with your life. And in a time which your voice has never been more important. And that weighs on me, that I'm very aware of how tremendously privileged I am that I get to be the person with the microphone. And at the same time, you have these two little rugrats running around.
Right, yeah.
And reminding you that, stay focused, stay humble, stay grounded, because those are the two people that matter the most. So.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. We're going to open it up. We have a virtual audience question, so we'll start there.
Oh, okay.
And then if you were lining up to ask a question, just as a gentle reminder to keep your question brief and only one question. And if it's more of a comment than a question.
My Twitter is available 24/7.
Yeah. Maybe hold on to that for another time. But let's see. Here we go. From Beth from Boston, Massachusetts wants to know, what is the best way for allies to show up for the queer community?
Oh, active allyship. It is a season for active allyship. That means you got to get off the couch. You got to do more than post a rainbow emoji on social media 1 month out of the year. I mean it. There are so many people who need you right now. 40% of the young people who are sleeping on the street tonight identify as LGBTQ. We know for a fact that 1 in 2 youth who identify as trans will attempt to take their life. God love you, but your emoji on social media isn't doing enough. So find ways to use your privilege, your money, your time, your energy, your spaces to give back to other people who really need you right now. So donate a little to an organization that means a lot. We're collecting donated books for GLSEN to make sure that teachers have copies of this book. That's on my website. That's just a tiny, tiny little thing that you can do, but find little ways that you can give back. Give money to organizations that you believe in, volunteer right now, and then make sure in every space that you occupy, people know, like we were talking about earlier, that it is okay to be themselves. And look around. Ask yourself who's at the table, who's not at the table. Maybe who's not even at the table, who's not in the room. But your allyship has to be active. And if you consider yourself an ally, not to be like the 8th grade teacher in the front of the room, but if you consider yourself an ally, ask yourself, have I earned that title, or have I just given it to myself? And that's just a question you take home and think about. So please find ways to give back in whatever way that you're able to do.
Amazing. I love that. We'll just bounce back and forth. You want to start over here?
Oh, hi.
Hi, Chasten. I'm Amanda. I live in Virginia. My mom actually flew in from Arizona. She's over there.
Hi,
She's
Mom.
a little shy. She wanted to be sure to see you. My question for you is, with the way the times are right now, how do you stay so calm? Because I feel like I'm going to lose my mind, and I'm not nearly in the thick of it as you and Secretary Pete are.
Yeah, but we're all just trying to get by, right? And like we were talking about earlier, it's easier to hold on when you have people holding on to you. So find ways to surround yourself with goodness. So for me, I'm a very social person, so the thing I need is like my good friends, a bottle of wine, and a board game, right? But if you got to make sure that you have enough gas in the tank to keep going. I won't get on my soapbox about social media, but so much of it is not real. It's just not real. It's not representative of what everyone is talking about in the country. That's what I meant when I said I go home to Michigan and like the big controversy on Twitter is like not even being mentioned back home. But there's so much on social media to pull you in and make you afraid and to beat you down and to remind you that you're not worthy or not good enough. And you have the ability to hit the power button on your phone and put it away. So surround yourself with the things that remind you of who you are and hold on to that. And other than that, I started therapy a while back. I love it. Therapy is awesome. So one of the best parties we have now are therapy parties where everyone gets together and shares advice from therapy. It's like, what have we been doing? You know, it's like, well, my therapist says. So, but just surround yourself with people who are going to lift you up. And just know that so much of that noise it's loud on purpose.
And thank you for inspiring so many people.
I appreciate hearing that. Thank you very much. Hi.
Hi, I'm Ashley from Washington, D.C. My son is a transracial adoptee, and I wanted to come tonight to know how else could we apply the lessons of your book to all kinds of differences.
Oh, yeah, well, I don't think the book is, just for LGBTQ people. Because I think we all feel like a fish out of water at times. And I know I wrote the book for young adults, but so much in the book is about what older people can do for young people. That's why I hope parents and teachers will read it. There's a lot in here about a young person wishing that he lived in an environment that valued restorative justice or community. You know, the idea that we could live. Well, at least for me, I wish I could have grown up in a time and a place where, you know, we valued difference. But so much of that value would have come from older people saying they did. And I think that, like we were talking about allyship, it's verbal. You have to say it, and you have to practice it in whatever space that you occupy. Sometimes I feel like I wish I could just had the recipe to make it all better. But the thing that helps ground me is that I get to do all the things I wish I would have had when I was younger today, and so do you, right? Another thing I was talking about in Michigan, I had a book event back in my hometown on Friday, and I met young people who were living, you know, in a city and going to school in a place where there wasn't a zero tolerance policy for hate, that the homophobia was still getting brushed under the rug. And I know that young people could use some allies right now. You might have to go to your school board meeting. I know they're not fun. Take friends.
Yeah.
But you might have to go to your school board meeting, your city council meeting, and you might have to speak up for the young people who don't have a voice right now. But I think we all can play a part in that.
Thanks.
Thank you. Hi.
Hi, Chasten.
Hi.
So I think my question comes from working with youth and working with youth in a space that's so inclusive that some of them struggle to feel like they have a place of identity.
Interesting.
Because thankfully, like, my religious congregation is very welcoming and open, and we go above and beyond to meet the needs of the kids who are out. But sometimes the kids who aren't yet out feel overshadowed by them. How do you help kids on their journey to find themselves, not only in like their gender identity, but also just in a place where they feel that bigger space is already being absorbed by other people?
Well, first let me say you're doing life-saving work, and you shouldn't beat yourself up too much. I mean, there are millions of kids in this country who don't have a you, and who don't have a space like that. So you're already doing something that is miraculous. Coming out is different for everybody, and it's not owed to anybody. And so you can't really, like, people ask, how do you help someone along their journey? Is just giving them space to be on that journey and knowing that you love them and you will love them unconditionally and you're there to help. But that's work that you know, other people have to do. You can just be there, you know, to be the adult or the teacher or the parent who says, it's okay to be you. And if you have questions, you know, I'm here. I'm here for you. And that trust, of course, is earned. And I'm wondering, selfishly, like, what it would be like to be in an environment where you feel overshadowed by your queer peers, but only because they are openly queer.
Yeah, it's an interesting space to be in, because, I mean, I can share an example. We were having like a retreat, and we were meeting the needs of all the students there in terms of like gender identity space, sleeping arrangements and things. And we had gone so far that we were almost to the point that we had to pull back because there was kids who weren't yet there, and how to meet their needs. at the same time as meeting the needs of the people who are open and are expressive.
Interesting.
And having those conversations. And so like that's why I wanted to ask you this question, because I feel like this congregation has met the needs of the kids, but how do we meet all the kids and mingle them? Because it's such a hard conversation to sit on the floor in a retreat center in 50-degree weather on the freezing floor and explain to a kid why we can't let them, sleep in the room where they feel most safe, because some of the kids aren't there yet.
Interesting.
And then meet that because those kids don't yet understand. And it's just like, that's why I wanted to have this conversation, because I come from the place of the future. But I don't feel like, it's hard to be in the place of the future where we're still having everyone meet us there.
Yeah, and I don't have all the answers either. And
Drats.
But the most important part is, does anyone?
No.
If we did, then you wouldn't be stuck in this position. But I really do want to stress that the fact that you exist in that space and you want to have those conversations and you're providing a safe space for young people to exist is brilliant. Beyond that, of course there's going to be bumps in the road and learning opportunities, but I really do think that you deserve a round of applause for just creating that space for young people to exist in safely. And I know that doesn't solve all your problems, but...
No, it's just, and this is why I wanted to have this conversation in this room, in this safe space, because it's something I've struggled with as I work with these teens on both sides of where they are.
Yeah. I feel pretty bad that I don't have the easy solution. But know that you're doing really valuable work and life-saving work. And there will be bumps and there will be headaches along the way, and I'm sure there will be a lot of people to remind you of them, but I'm really grateful for you.
Thank you.
You got it.
Hi.
Hey.
Hi, how are you? My name is Anthony, and I want to say I really appreciated your Little Mermaid references. Also, the opportunity to ask some questions and get some answers.
Sure.
So
there it is.
Good.
There it is.
Good.
Yep.
That was a good one.
Academy Award.
Thank you. You've become a very public figure, and many people see you as a representative of the gay community. So I want to know, does that come with a pressure to sort of be or act perfect, and how do you deal with that?
Yeah, originally I felt that pressure, especially when there are people who remind you, like you're too gay for Fox News, and like you're not gay enough for some people in your own community. But I don't want to be everybody. I want to be me. And the fact that this book exists is like, this book isn't for everybody. There should be 1,000 more books like this, right? And I can't speak for everyone in my community because I am G in the acronym, For me, when we were out on the campaign trail, I knew that it was really, really important to get it right, but in getting it right, you have to put your listening ears on and learn from other people. Because I didn't know what it was like to be a young trans person in this country. And being in my position comes with a tremendous amount of privilege. So rather than jump into a culture war or jump out into the world with all my opinions, I sat down at tables with advocates and young people to learn from them so that I could empathize with them, and then I could go out and speak up for them and fight for them in the right way. And there's certainly that pressure to try to, be a good example for everyone, and I feel like there's always someone on the internet out there to remind me, if I mess up just a little bit, then it's representative of all LGBTQ people, which is a double standard and ridiculous. So I always try to ground myself in, this is my experience. This is my story. This is who I am. But because I care about everyone else in my community, and because someone's giving you a platform, giving you a microphone, it is your responsibility to uplift their voices too, and their stories too, and their reality. That's why even to this day, I will continue to take coffees and lunches and Zooms with people in our community who can continuously teach me how to be a better ally, especially to people who have vastly different experiences than mine in our own community.
Cool. Thanks so much.
You got it. Hey.
Hi, my name is Jessica. I am about to finish my 3rd year teaching middle school.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you for your service.
And I am also a queer teacher. And I was just curious, teacher to teacher, how you have facilitated those spaces in your classroom, particularly with students who maybe, you're trying to encourage them to be their authentic self, but their authentic self right now is sort of a jerk. Maybe, I don't know.
Weren't we all?
Just sort of like either what you have done in your classroom or just any thoughts you have on teaching advice, I guess.
Oh, yeah. So I, at some points in my teaching career, taught alongside people who did not value a zero-tolerance policy for homophobia and bigotry. So at least I wanted my classroom to be like that. And one of the ways I think we mostly successfully achieved that was by having the students themselves write a class constitution. It helped that it aligned with the Constitution and American history, and there's a whole lesson. But I put it to them: how do you want people to behave in this classroom? And what happens when they violate that contract? What happens when they violate that contract a second time? How will we restore justice in this environment? And I got to the point where I didn't even have to step in. Some kids would be like, class constitution. It was like framed on the wall, But we had a constitutional convention in our classroom, and it took us like a week during seminar to write the class constitution. But by the end of it, the kids were holding themselves to those standards. It wasn't me stepping in as the bad cop and saying, it's in the student handbook. But I wanted them to draw those lines. And that was really helpful for me. I also taught alongside some people who weren't as accepting about, just teaching alongside a gay person. And easier said than done, and your safety always comes first. But I was married to the mayor at the time, so it really wasn't hiding who I was. So at least for me, I knew my administration had my back, so that's the most important part. But I just didn't allow young people to make comments or jokes, or even my peers, my other teachers, to make comments or jokes, because I also felt an obligation to get it right for maybe another teacher in the school who wasn't out, or other young people who maybe weren't out but who were watching, and you're a leader as a teacher. So hopefully that helps. Maybe you have time to write a class constitution, but super helpful for me.
Yeah, thank you so much.
You got it. Hi.
Hi, my name is Laura. I'm nervous.
Hi.
I come here in secret because my mom knows I'm in D.C., but she doesn't know why. Because I cannot mention you or Pete in my household. It's very anti-homophobic, homophobic, and things I have, your books and stuff, I had to hide them.
I'm sorry.
So the book that I have, I'm going to have to put somewhere so she just doesn't see it.
You can just put another book jacket around it.
No, I don't want to do that.
Pick something super straight.
Yeah.
My book.
Like, what'd you say?
I said my book. Don't do that.
I'm here in secret. But my question is, with all the hate that's going on out there with LGBTQ, with the trans, with the queer community, and I'm an ally, and sometimes we want to be allies, but sometimes it's not the easiest thing, especially when you got religion behind you and things, stuff like that. And I know all the hatred that goes on for your husband nonstop, it seems.
What?
How do you encourage him? How do you encourage him to keep going the way that he does, or even both of you? How do you do it?
Yeah, well, one, I'm sorry that you have to hide that. It's never easy when you feel like you have to hide part of yourself to the world. I mean, like I said earlier, I got to grow up and become this person. The fact that I'm alive, I celebrate every pride. I say it every pride. What I'm celebrating is the fact that I'm still here. Because when I was 18 and sleeping in the back of my car, I didn't think I was going to be here for a long time. And I know that the most important thing in this life is to show up for the other young Chastens who are out there who might not have someone speaking up for them, because at least it gets to be me. That's what keeps us going, both Pete and I, is the fact that out there somewhere, someone's watching, someone is moved by those words, or sometimes it's just the fact that you exist, which is humbling. But that's what keeps us going, is that we get to be the people that our younger selves could have used, could have needed.
I think during the pandemic was one of the I forgot what it was, and you said something I never forgot. what does the work look like? You said that, and I've never forgotten that. It's more than just that showing up with the rainbow and stuff.
Yeah.
And I get into a lot of stuff on Twitter, so.
Well, careful.
I know, I'd be careful.
Careful out there. Protect your peace. But I appreciate you being here.
I also, you know, I just want to just do the best I can to be the best ally as much as I can.
I think I can tell just by knowing you for 30 seconds you are. So.
All right, thank you.
We have just a few minutes to get these last 3 questions.
Okay, I will be expeditious.
Hi, my name's Leanne. I'm a graduate student here in DC. I like to believe that I am using my space to be a disability justice advocate. I'm a museum educator as well, and so one of my goals is to create these spaces that are fully accessible and inclusive.
Thank you.
Because that's a part of disability justice, is recognizing and uplifting intersectional identities and understanding how all of these experiences shape a person. And so I was just kind of wondering if you have advice on how to shape these spaces that are as authentically inclusive and accessible to all identities as possible.
That's a great question. I'm really I'm grateful that you're doing that work. You know, like I was talking about earlier, we all sort of occupy our own identity. And I have benefited greatly as an advocate and as an ally from other people who have taught me about their identity. In providing that space for those kinds of conversations. And you don't necessarily want to put that work on people who are coming to your space for that safe space, but perhaps there's a way to help educate other people who are coming to that space in good faith and in a safe way, an accepting way. Because sometimes we all need an opportunity to maybe ask the question, like the burning question that you're not quite sure, and you might stumble and you might get it wrong, and maybe you will offend, but you don't know how to ask it. Certainly how my parents became the allies they were today. Wow, did they ask all the bad questions. But they asked them, and I gave them the opportunity to ask them. And I feel like we can all be better allies and advocates if we are given the opportunity to ask the questions, right? I've benefited greatly myself from someone saying, what questions do you have, you know, and making that environment a safe space to say, well, everyone's talking about this or this and that, and I just don't know, you know, help me. And I think that would be really constructive for your group. And maybe it's not putting it on, you know, everyone else in that supportive network, but providing an educational opportunity for people in that network to learn from separate communities. Especially the disability community was really constructive for me as an advocate, because in the disability community, people have multiple different identities or just different disabilities. And that is something that I haven't had to experience in life. But you want to be the best advocate and ally as possible. So being given the opportunity to ask those questions was a really tremendous gift for me.
Thank you.
Hope that helps. Okay, I'm sorry, I'll be fast. Okay, favorite color, blue. Favorite Taylor Swift song, okay.
Hi, Chasten. My name is Julika. I'm originally from Germany. I love that part about your book. I came as an exchange student to Michigan, actually.
No way! What part?
Ann Arbor, Michigan.
Okay, so like south of the knuckle. So
yes.
That...
Exactly.
All right.
Yeah, my question was kind of about that, how this experience of going abroad for you shaped your life as an adult, and kind of, yeah, having that chance of just getting out there and experiencing something else as a young adult.
Oh, well, yeah, Germany saved my life. I will try to wrap it up really quickly, but in high school, there was this exchange program, and I felt like the day everyone was rushing out of the classroom, and the teacher was waving this, you know, flyer out, like, Congress Bundestag Youth Exchange Program, free year abroad in Germany. And to the rest of the kids, it was probably like, wop, wop, wop. To me, it was like the seas had parted, and a light was shining on that flyer, because I wanted to get as far away from Traverse City, Michigan as possible. And wound up getting the scholarship and got to get on a big airplane and leave America for the first time, and was just plopped into families who didn't speak English and challenged me in a multitude of ways, you know, from public nudity and swimming, which was a lot from a a very scared kid from rural northern Michigan, but like meeting friends and learning different languages. But the thing that saved my life in Germany was it was the first time I came out. I made really great German friends, and one of the great things about my German friends was they were very direct in a very German way. And I made a friend in Germany, and one day I felt like it was eating me alive. And she was like, something is wrong with you. You're not acting right. You know, what's going on? I was like, I think I'm bisexual. And she's so direct, so German. She was like, you could be gay. And it was the first time in my life that someone told me it was okay to be gay. I was like, really? Because I think I might be gay. And she was like, yeah, that's cool. And Germany changed my life. I came home with so much confidence that I came out to my family. A couple more chapters about that. But it gave me the confidence to come home and say, I can't go back in the closet. I can't do it. I have to be myself. And had it not been for that year in Germany, you know, I wouldn't have gained that confidence, and I also wouldn't have gained 30 pounds from all those pretzels. So, life-changing. All right.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here.
Hi, my name is Molly.
Hi, Molly.
I lost half my voice at the Taylor concert on Sunday, so...
The Taylor Swift concert? You got tickets to the Taylor Swift concert? And she comes here bragging about her Taylor Swift ticket.
And this the low-key brag, too, just like, just so you're aware, I'm on vocal rest from Taylor Swift.
Can you...
Congratulations.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
We're so proud of you. But you can exist safely and openly in this space exactly who you are.
Thank you.
The gall. What was the best? Sorry, we have no time. We will talk to you about the Taylor Swift concert later.
Okay, I'll talk about it as much as I can with my voice.
Because she's on vocal rest. From the Taylor Swift concert. On Sunday. That she went to.
So my brother is 18. He'll be 19 next week, but he'll always be like my little baby boy. He came out in 2019. Pandemic year is a little weird. But
that's weird. I mean, coming out during the pandemic, like I'm out and there's nowhere to go. Right.
Well, here, going to the living room now.
Well, congratulations to him.
Yes. He's come out to our immediate family and a couple of friends, but he's not quite ready to come out to the larger family.
Yeah.
And so just do you have any advice about how to kind of support him and guide him as he turns 19 and then 20 and then on and on and on?
Yeah.
Just as a sister, not as a parent.
Yeah.
Anything that...
No, just love him. Just love him. That's all you have to do, because that's his journey. It's not yours.
Yeah.
And it's not your family's, it's his. And so it's also not your information to share, which I'm guessing as a good ally, you already know that. And your parents know that, because my mom, you know, God love her. But it's not, it's his journey and it's his information to share. But the other thing is, it's not information that he has to share. That's the thing. Like I feel like we grew up feeling like we had to come out to everybody. And until we did, we had to feel guilty and ashamed that we were hiding that part of ourselves. But it doesn't define you, right? It's like, imagine if you're, and not to put you on the spot, I would never put you on the spot. Ever. Because she went to that Taylor Swift concert. It's not like we ever had a friend come out to us like, I just want to let you know that I like baseball. No one ever has to come out as a baseball fan, you know? No one ever has to come out that they have red hair. Being gay doesn't define you. There's nothing about being LGBTQ that makes you any different than anybody else. It's just that we're still growing up in a world that tells you it makes you different than everybody else. So that's his journey, that's his story, that's his information. But the most important thing that you can do is just remind him all the time of how loved he is and that you will always be there for him. The rest that's him, that's on him. And reminding him of that is life-saving. Just remind him all the time that he's loved and you're not going anywhere. And the rest will follow when he's ready. Promise.
Thank you.
I want to thank you all for coming out tonight. One more time for Chasten Buttigieg.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. Appreciate it. Thank you so much. Should we do a Taylor Swift number on the way out? Thank you very much. Really appreciate it. Thank you. And happy early Pride. I feel like we could say that, right? Happy early Pride.
Thank you so much to Chasten Buttigieg and R. Eric Thomas. If you can stay standing or seated, just while our guests make their way backstage, we sincerely appreciate